And welcome back to the First and Goal podcast. My name is Lewis. Next to me, as always, my beautiful co-host Laraib, as we're here to break down Week 6 of the NFL season. Laraib, over a third of the way through this season, and it is heating up right now as we get further and further along. Some crazy games last night, crazy games all weekend long. And for what we keep thinking, oh, this week's kind of a dud. There's some boring matchups. Boom, crazy upsets, all sort of shenanigans that the NFL consistently delivers, Larob. Um, you did a lot better in the picks this week. I got to give you credit. You didn't get blown out, but talk me through the picks this week, Larob.
Every Tuesday, I have to come on this damn podcast and put a big old smile on my face once I hear that. And welcome back. But then 2 minutes into the podcast, I have to pull up these goddamn picks every single time. And I mean, who screws me this week, huh? Of course, it's the Washington Commanders. They all they have to do is at home beat this crappy Bears team, and of course, Jaden Daniels does not look like himself after that knee injury. And I mean, my Patriots came through for me in the clutch. My Seahawks came through for me in that game against Jacksonville. It's been 3 weeks. Neither one of us have hit on either of our locks. Um, but of course, you've hit three upsets in a row, and that was the difference this week.
I mean, are we counting the Green Bay lock as a miss? I don't know. That one's still up in the air. But yeah, no, I mean, shout out Chicago for pulling this one through. We're about to talk about that game. But I mean, on the board, you were better than me for the most part, like in the, games we really didn't have much value in, right? Like you picked New England over the Saints, you picked Seattle over Jacksonville. It was really just not being able to hit that lock and me getting the upset. That was the real difference. So, but hey. There's always you're steadily improving, but I'm still
A
up.
double, more than double from last week, so that's one bright spot.
But all is still well in the air. We still have football to get into. Let's start, Larob, with last night's action. Let's start doubleheader, obviously. So let's start with the first game, Bills Falcons. Falcons stun the Bills at home. Bills' second loss in a row. A game that was all right. Surely the Bills aren't going to lose two in a row. That was my reasoning for making them my lock this past week. And again, the offense really just doesn't show up whatsoever, Larob. What's the biggest concern you have for this Bills team right now?
It has to be their lack of a dominant wide receiver on the outside. That was kind of one thing we talked about when they had that loss against the Patriots. And again, very apparent in this game. James Cook, we've talked about him and how he's really come on these past couple of years, but without the dominant force on the outside, besides the Chiefs, no other team has been able to have a successful offense without having some of that alpha guy on the outside. And it's been glaring that, they've put so much on Josh Allen's shoulders in games like this where they aren't able to run the ball. It just puts too much pressure on him, and he has not been able to come up these past two games.
And that was the thing, Larob. I saw a stat. Josh Allen blitzed 56% of the snaps last night, which is the highest he's been blitzed since 2021. And I feel like I've been seeing this all season where teams are playing a lot more crowded boxes, focusing a lot more on Josh Allen and on James Cook in the running game. And they're kind of leaving their corners on an island with these receivers and saying, y'all beat us. And, so far this season, at least the past two games, that has not been the case whatsoever. It just you need to get better production from these guys on the outside. We saw Keon Coleman have a really good game in week one, but ever since then he's just a big body out there, good blocker, I guess. And then Shakir, Trey, or Josh Palmer, you're really just not getting that juice on the outside. So maybe that's something the Bills look at closer to the trade deadline in a few weeks as a potential, you know, thing to help improve their team. But it's looking pretty distressing for the Bills right now. They're still the Bills and they still have a very good path forward, but it's just losing two games in a row like in this fashion is pretty disheartening for the former reigning MVP. And then for the Falcons, Laura, big win here. Pretty much the Jacqueline Hyde of the NFL this season. One week they're beating the Commanders on the road. The next week they're losing 30 to nothing to the Panthers. I mean, what do you make of this team? Are they still playoff viable in your eyes?
Yeah, like ever since Drake London came back from the injury, he has been a different kind of guy. It's just someone who plays in the slot but is very physical. He was just dominating that Bills secondary all night long, really getting whatever he wanted. And then of course Bijan Robinson. The thing is
Bajan.
Michael Penix and his ability he's really settled into his role. He's really become more accurate with his passes. The rushing game, Tyler Algier is who the Seahawks think Zach Charbonnet is. And so they have a great 1-2 punch. And their offense is just humming, right? Even when they have guys like Jake Matthews go out on the offensive line, they're still able to produce his huge runs, still able to get the ball downfield. Darnell Mooney still has to come back for this offense. So I think they're going to continue to improve every week. And the big thing is from this game, everyone's talking about how bad his Bills offense played, but I want to give a ton of credit to this Falcons defense. Those edge rushers, those two young rookies, first round picks, really stepped up in this game, really put a lot of pressure on Josh Allen, enforcing that game sealing interception at the end, and really stifling a lot of these drives by just sacking Josh Allen or forcing him to, out of the pocket into some bad throws. And so credit to this team. Like you mentioned, they're one team at home and a different team on the road. And so they're going to San Francisco this week. We'll see what that is like for them traveling all the way to the West Coast. But you start to see some flashes from this young team.
Yeah, I really need to see this team just a bigger sample size, right? Because it's I just can't get a great grasp on them. So it'll definitely be a wait and see team, but clearly they've shown that their ceiling is a playoff level team, being able to take down a team like the Bills. Second Monday night game went down to the final kick. The Bears beat the Commanders 25-24 in an all-time game. It started raining at the end. Guys were fumbling. Jaden Daniels crucial fumble at the end. And yes, he fumbled it, not Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt. Um, but crucial fumble at the end that allowed the Bears just a little bit of a door open, and they slammed it open as they went through and kicked the game-winning field goal. I really don't come away feeling too negative about the Commanders in this game, Laura. I think that, going into this game, definitely the more pressure was on the Bears in this spot. It would have been nice for the Commanders to get a win here, but I just feel like I saw enough from Jaden in this rushing game to be pretty excited about. Had some untimely turnovers, a pick early by Jaden, Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt fumbles in the first half, but they were pretty much humming all night long. And you assume, if you get Terry McLaurin back this season, Zach Ertz finally gets more involved in the passing game, that that you think you'll find a lot more consistency on that side. But they found a good running back. They found, Jaden Daniels starting to get back from his injury. So I think they'll be fine. The defense actually looks pretty solid. That defensive line looks really good. It's pretty much just the secondary getting fried by these bomb plays by these teams. But I think I come away from this game more impressed by the Bears, coming off a bye, didn't look too great to start this game, but they found a way to rally back in the end. So really come out of this game impressed with both teams. But I don't know. What do you think? Either team's worse by that performance or any players?
Mm, I mean, Jaden Daniels is one thing I just wanted to focus on because yeah, they were able to move the ball efficiently, but it looks like that knee is kind of still bothering him. His lateral movements, his side to side ability to beat those defensive ends and defensive tackles wasn't too apparent to me in this game. He didn't look like he had that same juice. And then with that knee being able to force the ball led to a pick and that fumble at the end. So a lot of just unforced errors. The game could have gone either way, but that's just one thing I was looking at. Frankie Louvu was someone who was just jumping off the page on every single play. I was really impressed by his performance. He would have had a huge shout out for me if they would have won that game, but of course, they lose somehow. No, I think one other thing you and I are both talking about is Caleb Williams, and he's just taking so many unforced sacks still. That's something we thought they would improve on from the bye, but it wasn't the case this week.
Yeah, so we'll definitely see how these teams fare going forward. I think these are Falcons, Bears, and the Commanders all vying in that similar, playoff wild card race right now. Three young quarterbacks who have a lot to prove. So it's gonna be really exciting to see how these guys look going forward. But Larob, let's go ahead and move on to our main segment of the day. We have cap or no cap, and I think by 2025, y'all get the gist, right? So Larob, to start so far this season, no teams have really popped. There's only three teams in the NFL, excuse me, with one loss. And then a few of the teams that we expected to be powerhouses this season really haven't, been showing us. We just talked about the Bills, right? But a lot of the teams have been, losing games they shouldn't or just getting cluster injuries at key positions on their team. So no team really sticking out right now, Larab. So I ask you, cap or no cap? There are no great teams in the NFL right now.
I have to say, no cap. I mean, everywhere you look, there's injuries piled up for this team. Defensive players who just aren't stepping up on this team, offenses that are struggling. Across the board, you look at every single team, you can say, yep, here's this gaping hole. You look at the Chiefs, they have no rushing ability. You look at the Lions, their secondary is battered to hell. You look at the Colts, their defense is not too impressive. The Packers can't put together two good halves. Everywhere you look, just teams who just aren't great. We have our tiers every single year. We talk about the Eagles. They're this dominant force. Their roster is so good, A through Z. Has not been the case this year. And then injuries, of course, for the Bengals, for the Ravens. I have to go no cap.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you here, Larob. I also think that we just haven't had that standout dominant team. And you could make the argument that, hey, that provides for more entertaining football come the end of the year, that we're gonna get, you don't really know who, some battle royale down to the end, right? So as it stands right now, Larob, FanDuel odds, the Chiefs and the Bills tied at first in odds for the Super Bowl, both at plus 650, then followed by Green Bay, Detroit, Philly now is third in the NFC. The Rams following pretty far after that. Ravens completely out of the picture now. It seems like no other AFC team really comes into that. So, and I kind of agree with him, right? Like even the teams who were like a pleasant surprise this year, like the Bucks and the Colts. The Colts you mentioned, that defense has been very unimpressive this year. Plus, are we really going to trust Daniel Jones like to really sustain this into like a long playoff run? I can't say so yet, right? And then for this Tampa team, Baker's been super impressive, but they're having to come back and scratch and claw in every game. And in every game, someone important goes down on both sides of the ball. So it's really hard to trust any team right now. So I feel like we'll definitely get a better feel for it come in the coming few weeks, which of these teams pushes through. But it might just be that on a week by week basis, you really never know. It might just be a matchup thing. It might just be the luck of the draw that week. So yeah, it's kind of hard to predict who the best team or who even the good teams are right now.
Yeah, but I think that's also part of the fun this year. As you can see in our picks, it's been up and down for me, most certainly. And I think that just adds another element to it, especially when, I want to go a little macro picture when we talk about MLB or we talk about NBA, where we do see a lot of these top heavy teams the past couple years, and the product just hasn't been as impressive to me. Now, I haven't watched baseball my entire life, so I'm not gonna try to try to talk about that. But especially for NBA, where we've had these super teams emerge, and you kind of feel like, okay, this is gonna be the teams, they're gonna dominate, and they get all the national attention, they get all the highlighted national games. I think this is a lot more fun for the NFL, where any given Sunday has been the motto for forever, but it's been especially true this year. And even when you're a team like, well, I mean, besides the Jets, any other team, they found a way to win games.
They
I just
should
think
have beaten the Broncos last week, though. I
yeah, I
mean,
mean, they had an opportunity, but I think that just makes it really fun. And that's why I just love football more than anything else.
yeah, exactly. So let's go ahead, Laura. Let's move on to our next cap or no cap. Let me go ahead and ask you. The Detroit Lions suffer a pretty tough loss on Sunday Night Football to the Chiefs, and it's been kind of a back and forth with them and the Packers for the lead in the NFC North, even though a big win by the Bears last week makes things a little more exciting in this division. However, the Lions, cap or no cap, still have the best shot to win the NFC North.
I have to go no cap in this one. I still like the Lions. I know that the odds are changing back and forth with the Micah Parsons trade, but week after week, you and I just keep on hammering it. It's this Packers offense and their inability to be consistent on any level. Josh Jacobs is the one consistent factor in that offense. But besides that, their offensive line has been rotating constantly this season. They have no true alpha on the outside, especially with Jaden Reed banged up. Christian Watson hasn't played all season long. It's just no one has emerged as that one go-to guy for Jordan Love. And it's just something I can't trust him in big spots. And they've let these teams hang around all season long, all season long. In a game like this against the Bengals, where you're 14.5 point favorites, and the Bengals have an opportunity with Joe Flacco, who came in midweek, has a shot to beat you late in the fourth quarter. That just doesn't look good for you. And on the other side, the Lions, yeah, embarrassing defeat on the road against the Chiefs. But we know when it comes time to beat up those bad teams, that's what they're going to do. They have a great rushing ability, rushing attack with a 1-2 punch. Amon-Ra has, one of the most consistent factors in the NFL. And if it comes down to it, not to trust Jordan Love or Jared Goof deep in the playoffs, I'm going Jared Goff. I think he has been more impressive this year. I know you're giving me the stink face, but I just think Jordan Love, his just inconsistency is just I can't bank on that.
That's fair, but we also have to recognize the consistency that Jared Goff displays when playing good defenses and competent teams, and that's being bad, right? Because he loves showboating, front running. Hey, look at me! I'm gonna catch a touchdown pass this week. Hey, how about you throw some, right? How about you do your job, right? Because yes, we can talk about how the secondary was super banged up against Kansas City last week. The offense stunk it up. And Jared Goff under pressure, there is a hard ceiling. So I guess when it comes to the question of can they win the division, I still lean Lions in this one. But who has the higher ceiling to make a legitimate playoff push? I still lean Green Bay. They were my Super Bowl pick. I still kind of lean Green Bay in that aspect just because you mentioned that, yes, they're missing a lot of guys. All these guys, Watson, Dreed, they're supposed to come back this season, right? It's not like these guys are out for the year. And you figure that more time in this system developing, Matthew Golden had a nice performance last week. Maybe he can build on that. You really get Josh Jacobs in the running game going, albeit, yes, against the crappy Bengals defense. But there's just a higher ceiling to this Packers team where I've seen them against this Lions team dominate them. They destroy the Commanders, and obviously Jaden gets hurt in that game, but even when Jaden was healthy, he was getting rolled, right? And it's kind of this Jacqueline Hyde Packers thing where it's all right, now you tie the Cowboys, you lose to the Browns, and you're in a war against the Bengals. But against the best competition, I've seen them play their best, where I cannot say the same with the Lions. So when it comes to just the division itself, I agree with you. I lean Lions because they're going to smoke these tomato cans out of the water. However, I still believe the Packers have a higher ceiling that they will reach.
Yeah, and then we look at both defenses. I mean, premier pass rushers on the outside in Hutchinson and Micah Parsons, but it's been their secondaries who've been really putting up stinkers this year. Terrion Arnold is banged up. Ryan Branch is going to be suspended in one game for the Lions. And then you flip it on over to the Packers, who were playing very well to start the season. But Keyshawn Nixon, he has been awful in the past 2 weeks. Valentine, we talked about him in our last week's episode. He was burnt toast.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness,
so
Valentine.
it's just going to be which one of these, front sevens is really going to step up. And, Micah Parsons, of course, he's the game wrecker for the Packers. But on the other side, I like the linebacking group a little bit more for the Lions. I think Aiden Hutchinson, he's right there in the defensive player of the race with Micah Parsons. And so I'm going to lean Lions in this one, especially if they win that division and they get a home field advantage. I
And
think it's going to
then
be tough for this Packers team to go on the road.
and then a young scampering quarterback comes there and drops 45. But you know what?
Jared Goof got concussed in that game on that pick six, and it threw off the entire momentum for the Lions. That is my theory for that. What happened in that game? And the Commanders they stink. So
Okay, okay. Now you're just You lost the picks and the Commanders. It's all right. Cap or no cap, Laraib? Obviously, we just saw Brian Callahan get the boot in Tennessee. And if you thought he was gonna be the first coach fired going into the season, yeah, he was a pretty good pick, but it wasn't definitely the top of the charts for some of these teams, right? Disastrous start. I mean, game management, blunders all around. That game against the Broncos was one of the worst coach games I've ever seen in week one. And then he has just bad quote after bad quote. It just seemed like the writing was on the wall. And to quote the great Cam Ward, keep it a buck, we asked, right? So they had to make the change. And now maybe the Titans get a little juice from that going forward. However, Laurent, We've seen coaches get fired in the season a ton, and there's a lot of disappointing teams this year, Larab. So I'm going to say cap or no cap, at least three more coaches get fired during this season.
Oh, I'm gonna go no cap just because some of these NFL teams they have no spine. I saw Dennis Allen play a whole season and a half with the Saints,
Mm.
longer than he should have. There's some guys, I think Aaron Glenn, he's on the bubble, but I don't think he goes. I don't
Yikes.
think he goes this season. DeBall, I mean, the Giants won that game against the Eagles. I think he is on the bubble as well, and of course Zach Taylor, he's gonna get a pass, and so. You look at all these, also Harbaugh. I want to put his name out there after riding with him week one. The issue is that I just don't think these owners want to have this huge, middle of the season. I'm going to let this coach go, and then you're kind of just scampering because then that's it. You're admitting defeat right there. You're saying we're completely done, and that's on one side of it. It's about the fans and the ticket sales and the revenue from all that. If you're punting on your season by firing your head coach, it kind of, who wants to go to a Browns game and put the paper bag on your head when you only have one win? Who wants to go to a Jets game? You just fired your head coach, and I mean, now it's really, really over. So I think a lot of these teams they don't want to grow a spine. Now this Brian Callahan situation was a little unique, just because I mean that he was god
He
awful.
was way over his head.
I mean, so incompetent. I do think we have at least one more. But I think I'm gonna go cap that three get fired.
And your names that you mentioned, you probably failed to mention the most obvious one. And that's the one that we probably both thought was on the chopping block next, and that's Mike McDaniel. And, losing last week in another heartbreaking fashion to the Chargers. Now this week, you're playing the Browns. And man, like, if this isn't it, I could see him going next week. But then again, he's had some awful losses so far this year. So there's some merit to your statement, right? Um, but sometimes these coaches, it just, I think from a owner's perspective of just like logically, it's you want to get your next head coach. You want that cycle going sooner rather than later, right? Because you want to be talking to these guys. You never know when some really big fish hits the market, right? So you want to make sure that you're in a good position to be at the top of that market, right? Because the Saints didn't fire Dennis Allen until super late, and we didn't get Kellen Moore until way later in the cycle. So you want to make sure you're in a good spot um, to get your guys in to really get everything going because you really don't want to be the team that's known for, hey, they were interviewing guys while this guy was still fired, right? Because then, the new guy who comes in is going to have, just eyes always behind his back trying to figure out if he's on the chopping block or not. So I mean, Panthers are 3-3 right now. We don't know what David Tepper could possibly. He could fire him next week. Why not? That's just what the Panthers do, baby. Um, but yeah, some of the names you mentioned definitely stand out to me. I don't think Harbaugh would definitely not get fired in the season. He's done way too much for that team. He's been there too long. Zach Taylor, even though this you could say, oh, Joe Burrow got hurt. I don't think that excuses him whatsoever. And then Gannon, interestingly, on the hot seat for the Cardinals. Um, Maybe you look at Pete Carroll as an interesting guy. Just throwing some names
One name
out.
I want to throw out right now. This team is 4-2. Sean McDermott, end of season. If they don't hit the promised land, is he on the chopping block as well?
Well, that's the conversation we had about Harbaugh for the longest time. Is hey, if you're saying it's not Lamar and you're just gonna blame the defense every year, and then nothing changes when you bring new guys in? Are we just going to keep wasting years? Or what if we focus on something else, right? So McDermott, it's the defense that always collapses at the end of the year because they don't have the talent. They're a cheaper franchise, even though they have one of the highest paying roles. But then you're like, hey, who are you really paying right now? So yeah, that's an interesting one too. But again, they're going to be a playoff team. He's not getting fired in the season. But as a out of the season firing, definitely some other guys in the hot seat that we failed to mention. But that's going to do it for cap or no cap, Larob. What we're going to do now is we're going to do a little top 5 MVP ranking through 6 weeks of the season. Um, Basically, what went to my criteria if the season ended today, this is who would make my top 5 ballot, Larob. Any guys who just missed out on your list that you'd like to give a special shout out to?
Um, no, I think I'm confident in these five guys because I don't want to, obviously this is not anyone else besides a quarterback award. So I just got my five quarterbacks and I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, really three guys that I'd like to give some shout out to. Sam Darnold, I think, has been playing really well for Seattle. He's found a good connection with JSN, and I think that he deserves some shine. I threw Christian McCaffrey in there because of all the craziness. Every single week, guys going in and out. Leads the team in touches, leads the team in productivity. Top five in the league in receiving yards this year. So he's just been a stud for a team that's performing way over expectation. And then I'm saying in that route, Jonathan Taylor, just the heartbeat of this Colts team. I think he deserves some love there. So, Laura, let's start with you. Let's go from 5 to 1. Number 5, who do you got?
I'm gonna go ahead and put Drake May here at
Ooh.
number five. Drake maybe. I've been really impressed. He's really started to limit the turnovers after the start of the season. And he's kind of in that Josh Allen tier for me for the way this team, they cannot run the ball whatsoever.
No.
Their defense sometimes can get exposed on the back end, especially when Christian Gonzalez isn't out there. And he's had to shoulder a lot, and he's been balling out the past 2 weeks. He's impressed me more and more with his throws, his processing, and his rushing ability, which has been a little bit underlooked this year. I think this if this team, was a little bit harder to start off, and didn't have those ugly turnovers against the Steelers and the Raiders, they could easily be undefeated right now, and that'd be a lot of credit to Drake May.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have Drake May at my number 5 spot as well. And I really think it's really just how, like, his stats after that awful Raiders game in week 1 have been pretty off the charts. Like, deep passing, best in the league on, passes 20 plus yards down the field, and almost every metric that encapsulates. Best passer rating in the league since week 1. 4-1 record since week 1. That's the best in the NFL, just from a team perspective, right? And the cast of characters is a bunch of
Booty.
dudes. Like, yeah, I mean, no one really special, right? Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson are the running backs, garbage. And then receivers, you're asking a 38-year-old Stephon Diggs coming off an ACL injury to lead your team in catches and receiving yards. So he's been fantastic. I've been super impressed with him so far this season. At number 4, Laraib, this is where I give the nod to the other Indianapolis Colt. I have Daniel Jones. I had to give him some love. He's just been super productive this season. Even though I think Jonathan Taylor's the real heartbeat of that offense, the biggest difference between last year and this year is the quarterback. The reason they were one of the worst teams in the NFL, and now they're number 1 in the AFC as the season would end today, is the change in quarterback. And you got to give the credit to Daniel Jones. Really, nothing doing anything too spectacular. Just hitting guys on target, delivering the ball when it's supposed to be delivered, finding guys when they're open, and just basic things, playing within the offense. But he's the orchestra of one of the best scoring offenses in the NFL, overcoming a pretty poor defense, right? So I want to give a lot of credit to Daniel Jones. He's been very impressive so far.
If I was to go back to our honorable mentions section, I would go ahead and put Daniel Jones in there. But at my fourth spot, I got Matthew Stafford, the old vet,
Mm.
in there. I think the Rams have been playing fantastic football, all on the injured back of Matthew Stafford. A lot
Oof.
of questions coming into the season about if he was going to be healthy, how this Rams team was going to perform. But Matthew Stafford, him, Puka, and Devontae Adams have been electric this year. Of course, the volume king, Kyron Williams, has costed them a game against the 49ers, and Stafford would have been a little bit higher on this list. I've been just impressed by the way they've been playing football, and of course Stafford. He's put up some good numbers, albeit against some bad teams, but I think he is a big reason why the Rams are playing so well. Of course, and that's what I'm at for.
The only reason I didn't have Stafford in my top 5 is because I think Puka's been that electric this season that I wanted to give Puka some of the shine, but also with Puka getting injured last game, I just left both of them off of it, and I think that was a bad decision. Laura, number 3, who do you got?
Number three, I'm going to go with Josh Allen. Two stinkers in the past 2 weeks, but he's still Josh Allen. He's willed this team to wins, a la week 1 against the Ravens. Of course, we're going to see the season go on, and he's going to continue to dominate with his legs. we just talked about how this team, their defense got exposed this past week. They don't really have the true number one on the outside. It's going to be a lot on his shoulders. And this team still has 4 wins, and they're still leading the division, or well, I guess second in the division. But still, you have to give him a lot of credit for the Buffalo Bills' success.
Did not make my list, Josh Allen.
Ooh.
At my number three spot, I have your guy, Justin Herbert, at number three. I didn't think I would, but I was looking at it, and I mean, talk about a guy who's dealt with adversity this year, right? Losing both your starting tackles, starting running back, and it's really been like some of these really close games where the Chargers have previously lost in the past. He's coming out and making the big plays at the end of the game to help them pull out these wins, right? The throw against the Broncos across his body. And then yesterday or 2 days ago against the Dolphins, a game that should have been over, right? Finds a way to hit Lad McConkey on the run to get into field goal range and have Dicker set it up for the win, right? Finding ways to win, tough as nails. Didn't think I'd be giving him the credit that I am, but he's been awesome. I'm have him at my number three spot.
Another one who should have gone on the honorable mentions. I think he's had too many bad interceptions. Going back to the Giants game where he just looked awful, was not on his mark, and then against the Commanders also just puts up a complete dud in that one. Obviously he's had to deal with some things a la Josh Allen-esque, but I just been a lot more impressed with Josh Allen and his rushing ability. That it's been on display from Herbert, but not as much as Josh Allen. At my number two spot, I'm gonna go with Patrick Mahomes, leading rusher for his team as well as passer. He has really put this team on his back this year. Their defense not quite up to the same level, but Mahomes really going back to his earlier self where he's had to get the ball out really quickly. He still missed on a couple of those deep passes, but still he's just been electric to watch this year.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have Mahomes at my number two spot as well. Everything you mentioned plus more, a lot of changes with this team, guys getting older, getting out of it. But Mahomes is still awesome. Finding these past few games, just lighting up the scoreboard with his arm. Now you get Rashee Rice back, you get Xavier Worthy back, and he's starting to really put together some awesome performances. So excited to see what Mahomes can do moving forward. And then maybe the Chiefs teams are like, hey, remember us? Remember when you had that funny discussion about no great teams? Well, hey, here we come. So interesting to see what Mahomes can do. But he's number two because number one, I'm going to guess we both have Dak Prescott at number one. I just think Dak's had an awesome. No, it's Baker Mayfield. Are you kidding me? That's the reason for the discussion, baby. Baker Mayfield playing outstanding football. His career path is so awesome to me. Just thinking about how he should have been a New Orleans Saint, but we went with Derek Carr instead. Just kidding. But really, coming into this season, a lot of expectations on this team in a crappy division. Like, hey, yeah, they're won the division, maybe win a playoff game or so, but they are really taking advantage. And Baker, you lose Mike Evans week 2, you lose Igbuka last week. Godwin been in and out of the lineup. You're throwing touchdowns to Tez Johnson of all people, and just these guys no one's ever heard of. You're losing offensive linemen left and right. You're on your fourth string right guard and you're still making some of these MVP level plays like that scramble on 3rd and 14 where he's spinning past guys, just brushing tackles off. He's been so impressive to me this year, Laraib. Just his confidence and how he inspires his team, and they all believe in him. He's trailing in all these games, and he's the reason they're coming back and winning at the end. It's just really a marvel to see Baker playing this well, and it's fun to root for him because he's a very easy guy to root for.
Yeah, he's certainly been the face of the league for this season so far, and hasn't been against bad teams as well. Going into Seattle and pulling out that victory, going to Houston
At
and having that
Atlanta.
late Monday night drive against that Texans defense to put that game away, like you said. He's just been really impressive. Of course, he's gonna be fun to watch. Him and his he's always fired up. And like you mentioned, not the greatest cast of characters on the outside or on the offensive line or defensively, really, but they're still finding ways to win, and that's on the back of Baker Mayfield. That's why he's not leading in FanDuel. I think it's Mahomes is ahead of him. Maybe
Nope.
Josh Allen is ahead of him.
It's Jordan Love.
Jordan Love is also ahead of him. And so, if you want value, go ahead and put a little money on Baker Mayfield.
Don't bet on Jordan Love. I'll say that. Um, Rico Dowdle, we are watching. Keep doing your thing, big dog. All right, well, I'll do it for our MVP. Finally, we have Thursday night football coming up, Larav, a true must-watch TV appointment. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Cincinnati to face the Bengals. Since he is a 5.5 point underdog here. Um, Past few Thursday night football games are up some crazy upsets. You had the Niners beating the Rams with Mac Jones coming in. Last week um, you had the Giants, Scattaboo and McCarthy, that combo going into Philly and beating them. So surely it won't happen again to the Steelers, right, Larob? Explain.
Listen, the Steelers beat bad teams, and the Bengals are a bad team. I mean, I can't make it any more.
Simple. It's that
Can't.
easy.
I can't make it
What can
any.
go wrong?
It can't be more simple than that, right? I mean, the Giants are a really bad team, and Jackson Dart doesn't look that good, and the Eagles are a good team. So they're going to go
They're going to
into New
win.
York and beat them, right?
Right.
I mean, the 49ers, hey, Brock Purdy is not playing, and a lot of guys are banged up. It's going to be Kendrick Bourne out there. I think this Rams team should beat the 49ers, in Los Angeles. And for that same exact reason, I'm going to go ahead and pick the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm going to go ahead and lock them up.
Oh.
I'm going to, oh, no, no, no.
Oh, you coward.
You know
Oh,
what?
come
Fine.
on.
You know what? Fine. I will take back my take back. I'm going to go ahead and lock up the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh, man. 50-year-old Aaron Rodgers,
Ah,
please just hang on for one more week for me, bro. Just dump the ball down
that's
to Jalen
not a
Warren.
lot of rest for Aaron
Hey,
Rodgers.
get away from Trey Hendrickson, and just, oh man, oh man, just find a way to win this game. Mike Tomlin, please. The Bengals are a bad team. Joe Flacco brought
Yes.
some juice this week. Jamar Chase against Jalen Ramsey is going to be a good matchup, but I think the Steelers, they overpower this bad Bengals team, and they win this game. Oh man, 26-20.
A lot of points. That's a close game, Larav. I don't know. You're almost having them covered. I'm picking the Bengals to win this game as my upset of the
Ooh,
week. Yeah, you
ooh,
heard it here first.
ooh.
Strictly because this is the trap that you keep laying out for me, and I can get a +3 value on my upset this week. Count me in, Larav, because I don't know. Joe Flacco looked pretty impressive once he got things rolling in that second half. Defense started playing a lot better. Trey Hendrickson exited the game, but he did eventually come back. So I think he'll be fine. But this Pittsburgh team, I mean, Aaron Rodgers on a short week, they can't really run the ball. I don't. He's gonna get hit once. He's gonna be like, I don't know, Jim. Joe Flacco, he doesn't give a rip. He's probably got 2 weeks left in him anyways, so he's going to get banged around all over the lot. Now, if he gets hurt in this game and Jake Browning comes in, yeah, I lost, whatever. But I think he gave this offense some real juice, gave some of these skill guys a little more confidence, a little more reason to live until Joe Burrow gets back. So, yeah, I like Cincinnati in this spot. I just think that I'm gonna ride red, right? Red keeps hitting week after week. I'm gonna ride red this week. I'm not gonna fade it. I am going with the Bengals in this one, 23-17. Who day?
And Aaron Rodgers, we trust. It is too early for this Steelers team to pack it in. Week 7, their bye was just, oh, they haven't had their bye yet. So that's what they're looking forward to, oh, they have
The
had their
Steelers
bye.
have their bye,
They
yeah.
have had their bye. So that means Aaron Rodgers, he's still living off that ayahuasca
Oh, he's
retreat from two
fresh.
weeks ago. It's still gonna be fresh in his mind. And they beat this Bengals team on the road.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our week 6 preview. Very electric episode. Want to give a quick shout out to all of y'all for how our last video performed, guys. Our second highest viewed video on our platform. Gonna keep it a buck. Don't know how that happened, but I want to give y'all a lot of shout outs. Just thank you for the support, guys. Keep liking, commenting. If y'all like what we're doing here, just let us know, right? We try to do these twice a week. We just like chopping it up, talking ball, but the more y'all kind of give in, helping us out, the more we'll give back to y'all. So let us know feedback, comments. What can we do better? What kind of stuff would y'all like to see? We're open to all of it. So, Rob, you got anything for us before we get out of here today?
No, I think that's the First and Goal podcast signing off.
Peace.